Oh, well, we'll get you that.
Yes, she does.
There you go.
Use your knuckles.
Thank you, Steve.
Just so we're official. Do we roll call? No, that's not good.
Where's the agenda? We'll call the meeting to order, and we're asking our new commissioner, Pamela, if she would please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pamela?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Mr. McCleary, would you please do a roll
Call?
Commissioner Stobo,
Here.
Commissioner Conrad,
Here.
Commissioner Harmon, Commissioner Grau,
here?
Commissioner Addison,
Here.
and Chair Golden.
Here. So I see that we don't have any presentations tonight. Almost Commissioner Balderman is here in the audience to watch our meeting. Thank you for coming. She'll be seated in January, but she wants to know everything that's going on. We appreciate that. And I see no public for public comment, so let's go right to approval of the minutes of the October 16th meeting. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move we approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Are there any corrections or?
No discussion, no corrections? All right, so we'll call for a vote. All those in, call for a vote?
Yeah, you would call for a vote. All those in favor, state aye.
I can't remember how to do this.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The minutes stand approved as written. Okay, discussion and action items. We're going to start out right away with arts grants. Roger, you want to take it over?
Okay. I have extra copies of the art grants worksheet. And does anybody want?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I printed mine.
You what?
I printed mine. Pass them down for you, Roger.
All right, yeah, you could just pass them down. Everybody take one.
Is that yours?
Okay. Just as kind of a memory, as the grants came in, we marked them 1, 2, 3, and we basically have 8 grants to work with. And so on the worksheet, 1 through 8 basically is the order of the grants and who the person is that is requesting the grant. So again, the order that they came in is the order it's here. It has no significance other than that. And then I also made a little error on the worksheet at the sum of the total. Basically, we have requested 21,600. We actually have 15,200.
Oh, 200.
Yeah, that was an error. I have it correct under abbreviations. It's the correct number, but not at the top there. One way I was thinking of speeding this up a little bit would be to basically ask for your numbers, and I thought we could put it on the board there, and that would very quickly let us know which ones that we would be interested and which ones we might have to discuss further. So if everybody would be in agreement for that, what I'll do is go up to the blackboard and mark them down and ask each one of you to give the funds that you suggested for that.
I think that sounds great. We
Okay.
did that last time. I thought that
All right.
worked really well.
Roger, Roger, may I make a further suggestion?
Sure.
Okay. Number 3 is a piece that cannot, I don't believe, as we talked about it last time, can go through this process. It has to go through acquisitions, because it's a piece of, they're requesting to put a piece of public art on public property, so it has to go through a different vehicle. I don't know if we can give it a grant before it's been vetted by acquisitions.
I would agree. I had exactly the same thought about this. I don't mean to judge it yay or nay, but I think it needs to go through our public art process, because it would indeed be public art. So I think
Okay.
that should be really shifted over to an entirely different category. Whether that will increase or decrease its possibilities of funding, I don't know, but I really think we need to stick by our guidelines. and
This is an issue that we
procedures.
clarified at the last meeting, but I'm not sure it held for doing that. This was a very complicated, and this was his first grant that he had written. And he's basically went all over the place, but
Yeah.
what he's actually wanting to get the money from us for is to be in the schools and basically use this as like a peace initiative in the schools to teach understanding and communication. It's not to be putting in the sculpture, which
Right.
he realizes would require getting either the planning commission involved or the, whatever. It's a very complicated procedure. So what we're only talking about is doing this program in the schools.
So that then leads me to question the amount of money he's asking for, and because if indeed he's asking for that amount of money to go into the schools for education, I'm looking for his grant to see how he's,
That's number 3.
I know I'm looking in my folder of, for the
Can
actual.
I ask a question?
For the
before we do that?
actual, in a minute when I'm done. I'm looking for the actual paperwork on it, so we can look at the sheet and see how he intended to spend that $5,000. Because when it was presented, the feeling I had was that $5,000 really was for the sculpture and not for the education, and that was sort of like a shift that was made when he realized that there was a different process for him to go through.
Can I say
And we can't really have a shift and a change in the grant. We have to accept the grant as it was written. So we need to
No.
look at that carefully.
Yes, but we did also clarify that at the meeting, and if you look on the grant itself, the actual monies are designated for support for that particular program.
Not for the sculpture. He's donating the sculpture.
He's
not
got
using-
$1,000 down for installation, and he's got down,
1,500 for
you know, so
supplies.
to me, the grant was written
Supplies are
for
for the
putting a
schools.
sculpture in, not for education in schools, when I look at the breakdown of it.
Well, if you go through, and that's not really clear, and that's probably, not the way it should be. If you look at the rest of the figures, the bulk of the money is going for the program in the schools.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say.
Okay, but we should certainly take that into consideration when we're giving the money out. We have to somehow ferret out and see how much of this was going to go for the education component, because contributed income $40,000, it clearly was written to have a piece of public art installed, and that's my concern. That doesn't mean that we can't assist in this process with him, and I would say that it's a really important, Pamela, that acquisitions contact Brian, and because I think that we need to be proactive on this with Brian and contact him, because I read something recently where he spoke about that he is determined to get a piece of this public art on public, city property before the end of the year, before Peace Day next year in September. And as Michael and others said, it's not that the process is complicated, but it can be lengthy, because we have to completely vet what it is he wants to install, where he wants to install it. There's all those factors that will come into play that acquisitions would be handling.
Wouldn't it go through public art, though?
No, it doesn't go through public art, because it's not part of the let's call it right now, percentage for the arts program. It's not a piece that's being it's such a great question, Linda. I went around and around with this myself. It took me a while to grasp it. That ordinance and the public art process that you're thinking of, CAPA and a jury, comes into effect
Only
when
once.
a developer wants to do something over $300,000 and they have to give 1% for the arts. Are you, yeah, I know, it took me a while to get it.
Gotcha, I gotcha.
So this is, and I talked to Mimi about it, I talked to Barbara Hirsch about it, I talked to Steve, just to make sure that I was understanding it correctly. Because it's sometimes hard to wrap your head around all these different processes, and then grants comes into play as well. But clearly, this is something that has to go through acquisitions, and I really think acquisitions has to be proactive in this.
So acquisition isn't as,
It's a donation
Yeah.
through acquisitions.
Is it a donation?
According to what he said, all except for the $5,000 that he was asking the grant fund for. But first, I think before any grant money can be put toward it, acquisitions would have to vet it, and we'd have to know that indeed it could happen, which we don't know that now.
Wait, I have a question, though.
Mhm.
Even though...
Is your mic
okay,
on, Heather?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay, good.
It's not part of public art, but it has to go on a public land. And so how are we addressing that?
It is public art, but
Okay.
it's not part of the public art program that is handled when a developer develops a piece of property or builds. And then there's a whole ordinance that consists of numerous ways of dealing with the percent that has to go for the
But
arts.
then how are you going to address this in the future? Because my guess is this might come up again.
Same way. If somebody wants to install public art as a donation, they come to the Arts Commission and they are sent to the Acquisitions Committee that does all the background and brings a recommendation back here. You following? They bring a recommendation back here as to whether or not this piece is appropriate and will work, and it can be installed, and it can be maintained, and the city is okay. It might even have to run through Park District or Planning, depending
Right.
on where it's going to be installed. And
That's
none
true.
we know none of this.
but,
There's
Is, it,
another issue.
is that helping? I hope I'm helping and not making it more
No,
complicated.
I'm just trying to figure out like the best way so this doesn't keep coming up again where
Right.
we're going back and forth, and so it's-
Also, where is it supposed to be installed? Is that
Yeah,
something
and put
that-
your mic on and
It's on.
talk in
Okay,
there.
hi. The placement of the art, does it go on city land? Are we talking about putting it in public on someone
he's
else's land?
talking about.
That's
putting
what
it
he's
up.
proposing.
That's what he
yeah.
wants.
It might be it could be a bunch of, he's looking at all different spots from what I understand.
Yeah, I mean, if he was going to put it on public property, he wouldn't have to go through us at all, but he wants to put it very specifically. And I think he has in mind maybe complement Libby.
Private, she meant. She
Yeah.
misspoke. She meant private.
There's another issue that I think is very important, and to say that he is requesting money for the education component, it seems to me puts the cart before the horse. Because in the second paragraph of his proposal, he says, once this sculpture is installed, I will present the art of listening and bring teams of artists to school classrooms. That is a long way down the line. I mean, if it's installed in September of 2015, then it's subsequent to that he would be doing that, which is to say then that a grant request should go in next year for funding for the education component. And I think further that it isn't fair to the other grant applicants, some of whom may not have been here and were not able to speak to us and make modifications in what they're proposing. The grant applications are the grant applications.
And they
I think
cannot be
in fairness to
modified.
all of the applicants, we have to go by the grant application that was submitted.
Well, I think we are. I mean, I was just looking at it, and what it says is fees for service installation. That would be the only part of it. Supplies and materials are things to be used in the schools.
But that's after it's been installed, he says
Well,
specifically.
why couldn't we consider?
Take a look at page 3 of 5, Linda,
I
and
am
see what
looking- I'm
he's
looking
written.
at-
No,
I'm
not the, take 3 of 5, where he's written what the grant was written to do. It says, please provide a detailed description of the project. His first sentence, the project is to produce and install a holo sculpture. This grant was written to install a sculpture. It was not written as an educational component for a sculpture that has not been improved or installed at this point. And Michael is so right on target. He can come back and apply for the education component next year. And if the sculpture goes in, it's perfect, and we can support it then. It is the cart before the horse.
Don't forget also, he hasn't gotten approval from the schools for these programs.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're giving money before we know what in the heck's
Yeah,
going
so
on.
I hear you.
Another big
Yeah.
thing that.
So, I mean, we love this, I mean, I do. I love this project. I want to see it happen. I want to support the educational component, but we have to be consistent in how we apply money for grants. Roger, you want to say anything? Sorry.
Just speak into the microphone, Roger.
Right.
I think we should withdraw this from the grant pool at this point,
Well,
is
then
my
we need to make-
recommendation.
You need to make a
Okay.
motion, right? If that's
don't
what you
know.
want to do.
Let's finish the discussion.
Yeah, I think just, we'll set it aside.
Yeah.
What happens when we set this aside is that we have enough money to fully fund every other grant applicant, we're only short $1,400
Right.
when we set this one aside, by the way, which is another reason why I wanted to bring this up at the beginning, because if we know from the get-go that we have enough money and we can take the remaining 7, divide the 14, and just give everybody what they asked for with a little
Close.
tiny bit subtracted out. To me, it's a no-brainer. You take $200 off of everybody's request, and we're done. Anyway, that's my suggestion and recommendation.
I would support that.
200 each, right? Did I do the math right?
How do you feel about that?
I would support that as well. I only have one question in terms of now being in charge of acquisitions. So let's say Brian brings it to me in acquisitions. Is there any budget for the acquisition or installation of a sculpture?
No, acquisitions doesn't handle funding
Okay.
public art or a donation or a loan. Acquisitions is the team that vets proposals and then brings back all the information that we would need to make a reasonable recommendation to the city as to whether or not this piece should be and could be installed on public, because it's, you know, it's taxpayer land. So it has to go through these channels.
Okay.
And we want to do this, so that's why I think if you can be proactive and contact Brian.
I can do
Because
that.
I recently read, I forget what I was reading, Ojai Quarterly, and he just, you know, it was so beautiful to read what he wrote about how he can't wait to get this going. But I don't think he's made a second contact with us, so I think let's us do it.
Well, then I would support your proposal.
Okay. Linda?
I like the idea of funding them as fully as we can. I actually funded most of them. I guess that would be fine. I was just thinking, how are we, you want to just do it uniformly all the way across the board, just take that out of everybody.
$200
Well,
each.
I think first, are we all okay with setting Brian aside and letting acquisitions make that contact with him? And if you sit down with him and explain to him that he can apply next year, and once the sculpture is up, it'll make great sense for us to take a look at an application for a grant for education in the schools. By then,
And we had this.
I assume he would have permission from the schools. I want to correct something I said to you, Pamela. You do have an art acquisitions budget, but it's for framing
Okay.
and repair of stuff that we own. So, sorry. Thank you, Steve, for reminding me.
Yeah, we purchased
Yeah, we
artwork.
purchase
Did you
artwork.
purchase artwork?
Sure.
Did you purchase artwork with that money?
Yeah.
It's not just framing?
No,
No,
Okay. So
it's
could
acquisitions.
we contribute money toward a public art piece? I guess we could.
Is that something we have?
If
Is that
the-
something we all have to agree on, or is that?
Yeah,
something-
yeah. Acquisitions would bring that back to us and say, we're recommending that this amount go toward that. Yeah, you could do that. So
and
I stand
installation-
corrected.
Installation would be the equivalent to framing.
yes.
There you go.
I think the way we wrote the donation procedure is the artist is responsible for installation.
And we're going to be looking at that policy later, so
The
let's take.
donation,
yeah.
not the acquisitions. It's two different things. Donation isn't necessarily, an acquisition is separate from a donation. Does that make sense? Okay.
But I think isn't it great that we have this to discuss? I mean, how fantastic is this, that we actually are having to think about somebody who wants to put a piece of public art up? Yes! It's great.
Okay, so
Okay, are you,
are we making, I don't know.
well, we haven't talked to Heather yet.
Yeah, I agree with pushing him off for another year, but I think we should make it clear to him the reasons we're doing it.
Of course.
So,
I will talk to him.
yeah, okay, just, so he just doesn't get a rejection letter.
Right. And acquisitions, by the way, because there's been some changes recently in our committee makeup, that's Pamela as chair, Michael Addison, and Linda. So it'll be the three of you working with Brian together. I think you'll have a great time. It's very exciting.
Okay, then it looks like we're going to set this aside.
Do we have to make a motion for that, or can we just do it?
Steve?
I mean, you could make a motion at this point, or I think really what the commission or what the council is looking for is a recommendation from the commission in terms of what to fund and the amounts.
Okay, so it just.
It'll
sort of
fall out.
fall in.
And then it sounds like you've given direction back to Commissioner Grau to communicate back to the applicant as to the reasons and all that. So I think you got it covered.
That being the case, I would like to move that we grant number 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 of the applicants, the funds that they have requested minus $200 in each case, and that we not fund at this time the application number 3, which is the Brian Berman presentation, because of the reasons that we've just discussed.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
I'll second that motion. Well, we have discussion now on that motion.
I'm not in favor of that because I think some of the groups actually need the full amount of money that they have, and that we should really discuss them on a as-needed basis rather than do a blanket just to make it easy for us.
Then I withdraw my motion
Okay.
in favor of the
Can we
committee
do that?
chair.
If the second.
Oh, yes, I withdraw the second.
Okay. All right.
So we'll go through them one at a time, skipping 3.
Yeah, we'll skip 3. So what we can do is we'll take number 1, which is the community chorus. And do you have a worksheet?
I do.
Okay,
Would
but
you
you
do
haven't
need
filled
one
it
too?
No, I have one, but I was going to have you put down the numbers that you have for the various grants.
We did last year.
Yeah. That was what we discussed doing, in that we would put down the numbers that we have for that, and then we would see how close we are numerically.
Okay.
But if somebody isn't prepared to do that, we can skip that, because it'll still give us something to discuss. So, how about Michael? Do you have a
On what?
breakdown?
I have a breakdown.
Yes,
Okay, why don't we do...
this sheet here? Yeah.
See, I would like to hear from you, Roger, because you were in charge of this grant, what you think the recommendation should be, because you're the one who studied the grant and can tell us the most about it. So I think that each person who studied the grant is the one who has always recommended what they feel the...
Right. Well, I could put my numbers down, but they don't reflect the new dynamics of it. But I'll just put my numbers down. We'll see how it works.
We'll go that way, yeah.
So Roger, so you're suggesting full funding for
Yeah.
number 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Oh, I don't know how he's going, okay.
I was... Oops. Okay, so that's a beginning. Michael, would you like to?
Well, I hate to see the dance program cut that much, given the fact that it serves the schools so richly and the community.
It's only $500 difference.
Yeah, I understand that, but nevertheless, I would
So,
prefer to give it as much as we possibly could. I'd be much happier if it was 3,300 along the lines that we discussed earlier.
See, I fully funded it.
Well, if I had my druthers, I would fully fund it at 3,500.
okay.
I'm particularly sensitive to this because of the fact that the arts programs in the schools have been so decimated,
Okay.
and the Education Foundation is now swinging its support of the arts. So I think for us to sort of join in that effort would be complimentary and strong.
Okay. How about the youth opera?
Actually, I have to say, yeah, taking $1,000 off that one, I think this is a really strong proposal. This is the first
Wait a
year.
minute. What we were going to do is
Go
one by
one by one.
Oh, sorry.
We're not going to discuss
We
each
can't go with
of
the person who studied giving an opinion to the rest of us.
Well, we
to
can
inform
ask, but
us.
last
Well,
year
if
we
you
did.
like.
I mean, I
Okay.
would really like to hear what Heather has to say about that, because she was the one that worked with that group. And then can we give what we think after we hear her?
Last year,
That'd
we
be
we
okay?
didn't do that.
I
but-
want to
Okay,
hear
all right.
what the studier
Okay.
felt.
Okay, sorry about that. So you get to take $1,000 off them. I feel like this is a largely, they're moving forward. Their program's growing. I think it's a big draw for Ojai. What they're using their money for is for additional staffing to draw in more people. This is not someone who's asking for the same budget year after year and not make changes. They're changing their program. They're trying to grow their program, which I think is incredibly important. And so I think to cut them off for $1,000, what they're asking for $3,000. I think it would be nice to see them fully funded. As I said, they're selling out their house when they do the performances at the end of the sessions, and I think it's on their proposal that this is something maybe they will ask for money next year, but it just seems they're just using this to get a leg up to make their program bigger and better, and not just keep sustaining the norm.
Okay.
I have to add that I saw the performance that they did on Ojai Day, and the quality level was astonishing. I was blown away. I mean, the fact that they were able to take young kids and develop them to the level that they did was really remarkable. So I think this is a program of high quality that really merits our support.
And they're part of the reason they're trying to bring in baritones to attract
Right.
boys, which is a nice thing. It's just
Yeah.
they're really they're thinking of what they're, how to diversify, how to grow, how to make it better.
And I'd like to add that, once again, this is something that is helping fill the gap that has been left by what Michael said earlier. The art programs in schools have just been decimated. So anytime we can give money toward something where the youth is involved, the effects of that are far-reaching. I mean, I just totally support giving them the full amount as well.
Me too.
Okay, so Michael, what is your number?
For the youth
Oh,
opera.
I would fully fund it,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, and, well, I guess we could hear from Linda about Mary Hamilton.
I did that and the Word Fest, both of those, so they're
Yeah,
both in
but
there.
let's just do Mary Hamilton.
Okay, what I did was I gave Mary 1,000 of what she asked for, and I gave the Word Fest, which she also wrote, in view of what we're doing with the other one, I would fully fund that. So that's what I did.
Could you give us a little of your thinking on the $1,000 for the Mary,
Well,
number 5?
To me, it's a great program and everything, but I know we have to cut back somewhere, and if all the projects I can see, that's the one that I mean, she has applied for it before. It's part of it's part of WordFest. It's not like it's a separate program, so really all that money is
Gotcha,
going really into
gotcha,
one
okay.
pot. So that's
Yeah.
why I cut back on that one,
Okay.
rather than the other one.
Yeah, I would support that approach. And the other thing that caught my attention was she said in her grant application that normally this program, people willingly pay $200 to participate. So to make it free, it seems to me, is a bit of a stretch. Why not offer some scholarships or offer half price or something of that order?
She's going to do that with the extra money. That's what she wanted it
Yeah.
for, so.
Okay.
So I would support what Linda suggests.
So
which
you're
is-
suggesting 1,000?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I went on the order on the, I'm so confused.
Yeah, I am too. Numbers are going up on the board. What does it matter?
So then for number 5, or rather number 6, you're doing the full amount, 3,200, and you concur
I'd be
with that?
comfortable with that. Yeah, I think
It's a
that's a
good
very successful,
event.
powerful program. It's become almost an Ojai signature program.
Yeah, I think so
It's
too.
really worth our supporting.
All right, number 7, Scott Smith, and that's Christine.
Well, you know, I'm sorry, but I don't have in front of me the amount that we funded last year.
It was
for-
1,200.
Was it 1,200
Yeah.
last year? So I could see reducing that, because that's more than double what we've done in the past. And I would be content to add up what's been suggested by the grant studiers, because I agree with all of them, and see how we can take what's left and divide it between the children's choir and the senior chorus in some way. Maybe not divided 50-50, but whatever's left once we add up what's been recommended by the,
Okay. So did you have a number, Mike?
Well, I would fund both of those fully because they serve specific populations. The children's chorus, I don't think we can argue with in terms of, again, the impact on the schools. But the senior population, to have that flourishing, growing out of the small beginnings at the Gables to something now that is engaging a large number of seniors from throughout the community, again, I think that's something that Ojai could be proud of and that we should support. So
Okay.
I would fully fund that.
And then Christine, on Julia Zonik.
I would go with the full amount on that.
Okay. Michael?
As would I.
And
It's a 6, you went higher.
on number 1, yeah,
I wish I had a little calculator here, because I
Yeah,
think
'cause
this
he
adds
asked
up
for
to the
32.
full amount if we go that way.
Yeah, what did you want for number 1?
Have a calculator in there?
That one I would fund fully. Again, it's an Ojai institution. It's worth our supporting.
I have a calculator.
It's 45, 75, 85.
Pamela, I know you added up some numbers.
But I would do.
No, I'm in
do
agreement with all the
14,
numbers that you've come up with.
15.7
Okay.
is where we are now.
So you don't want to add anything to,
No, I feel really good about where we're at.
okay?
Where we are is at 15,700.
So can I give my numbers running down?
Sure.
Okay, so 1,000 for the first one, 3,500 for the second one, 3,000 for the opera cap.
Slow down.
Number 5, 1,000, I agree with the person who studied that. WordFest, 3,200. Scott Smith, 2,500. And 1,000 for Zonik. And can somebody add that up? Because I think that's
15,200.
200. So that's our
the
amount.
amount.
That's
Yeah, that's
15,200.
15,200.
The last column.
if that comes out to that amount, I'm very happy with that
Because
total.
I think
does.
the 2,500 for
4, 5, 7, 5,
senior
8,
chorus is good.
5, 11, 7, 13, yeah, it's someplace.
7, 8, 11,
I tried to do it,
13,
I couldn't do it on
14.
paper.
I can do it in my head, I think.
45,
15.2, that's right, 15.2.
75,
That's 15.2.
85,
15.2.
15.2. That's the total amount that we have to spend.
I'm happy with that.
Okay.
I
How
like
about
that. I
you?
like those totals.
Okay.
How about you, Roger?
Well, I was, like, the reason that I was considerably lower here, it's a new grant that we haven't had experience with in before, so I was a little cautious to do the full amount on that. Pardon?
I mean, is it the whole, I mean, I see that as a good thing. We're getting new blood in here, people asking for new things, and it's not the same people. Like, one of my frustrations were a couple of these people, when we asked them what they're gonna do differently, they didn't really have a plan to grow. Where, it would be really nice to hear people's ideas for growth, not just
Yeah.
how they're gonna maintain.
Right.
So, that was just, but,
Would you be okay with a larger amount to fund it, or is it like really not okay with you? Number 4.
I just wanted to express my feelings about it, so, and also these figures are relating to having Brian in there also. I had designated some money for him, so.
If I had designated money for Brian too, but if we take him out of the equation, that's why I was happy with that, so.
Okay. Looks like we've done it. Okay.
So can we have I think we need a vote on this, but I think we should have a review also to make sure that Steve gets the figures that we want here. Would that be helpful for you, Steve? I don't know if Steve's going to watch the TV to do the minutes.
Oh,
I
do you
think
want me to read it?
that if they're going to come to Rhonda, would she be hearing it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's a worksheet, not an actual document.
Should I make a motion with specifics? Would that be advisable? Okay, then I would
Yes.
move that we grant $1,000 to the Ojai Community Chorus, $3,500 to the Annette Brody Dance Theater, $3,000 to the Ojai Youth Opera, $1,000 to the Free Writers Workshop, $3,200 to Ojai Wordfest, $2,500 to the Senior Chorus, and $1,000 to the Children's Choir.
Do we have a second?
I second that.
Motion has been seconded. Let's do a voice vote on this one. Steve, please.
All those in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Oh, I meant one person at a time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That doesn't matter.
Since it was unanimous, do you want to redo that again?
No,
or-
no,
Okay.
no, that's fine. Whew! Well, Roger, I'm sorry, I kind of threw a little bit of a wrench in that on you, I know, and you worked so hard on it, I don't know what to say, but I think it worked out really well. So, and we'll count on hearing perhaps at our next meeting, which I think might be in January, from Pamela, any kind of feedback that we've gotten from Brian and how we might proceed forward and make sure that we can help him with that, if it's appropriate to help him with it, which I think it will be. Okay, so thank you. Thank you, Roger, very much. You make that easier for us every year. Public art. I'm going to give a very short report on public art tonight. I have finished the revision of the guidelines for developers for the public art ordinance, the new public art ordinance, and it has gone to Barbara. I have not sent you a copy, Steve, because I didn't want to overwhelm you, because I knew a lot was going on, but I'm going to send that to you next week. And then Barbara and Steve and I will meet one final time, and we'll go through it with a fine-tooth comb, looking for any kinds of errors, spelling, plurals, things like that. But we've already met 3 times and gone through the content and the body of it. And we think we have a really clear document at this point that developers will get when they are going to pursue the public art process. One of the highlights of this process in the new guidelines is that it lists 3 options very clearly that developers can follow. And the first option that it lists is to donate money to the Public Art Fund. And it shows how simple that is. All you have to do is write a check. The second option, which is good 3 pages long, explains all the meetings that a developer has to attend, the recommendation that they get an art consultant, and all the process that they have to go through if they're going to actually install a piece of public art. on their own. Of course, it's vetted by either CAPA or a public jury, but it goes through a process. And the last is to make a donation. And that's a little more simple than option 2. But now at least a developer can see, oh, I could give money to the Public Art Fund. And that's the second thing I want to talk about with public art. And the committee has not had a meeting yet because it's pretty much a brand-new committee. It's now Pamela, myself, and Roger on the Public Art Committee. And when we meet in the new year, in 2015, one of the things that I would like to talk about, and all of the commissioners are welcome to give input on this, is how much money we have in the Public Art Fund, and do we as a commission want to do requests for proposals for a public art piece? For example, something on the side of the theater building. We've talked about developing a space for a community public art walk, something like that. So I think it's just exciting right now to be here and think that we might be able to pull something like this off. Yes. There are 3 things. So number 3 is, Steve, I want to just make sure that I am correct and clear that the flooding to the theater, the repair work being done to that spot and to the Jester does not fall under the public art requirement because flooding is not, it's exempt, correct?
It's a repair.
It's a repair.
Right, correct.
So we don't get money from that, unfortunately.
If there was an addition or something that was part of the project, then that could be, but
Right.
I'm not aware of any such thing.
And then the last part of number 3 here, which is what's going on in town with developments, is that I happen to be over at a residence across the street from Mallory Way, and I noticed that there is a lot of construction going on in the Mallory Way area, or at least it looks like there's construction going on. There's vehicles there that would make one think that development is happening. And that property does fall under the public art process. So I'm just curious about what's going on with that.
I'd have to check with the Community Development Department.
Okay. Could we ask for an update on that, perhaps by email, and not have to wait to our next meeting? Could you let me know?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Because if they have proceeded, they need to be complying with the ordinance. The other thing that I'm not clear on there is whether or not that project is grandfathered into the old ordinance, or whether they will fall under the rigors of the new ordinance.
I believe they're considered to be in the pipeline, so they would fall under the old.
The old
Their
ordinance.
application was made, so I'm not aware of any change in the development there, but I'll find out.
Okay. Does anyone else have anything that they've seen going on in town that they think should be, that we should check on? Okay, then I'm finished with public art. Public relations, Linda.
Not a lot to report from last meeting.
Yeah.
So we're kind of waiting, holding
Okay.
until we can take
And,
a picture and do all the.
I think you've let Linda know. Maybe not. But Pamela turns out to also have, like, really knows about websites and all that stuff. And she asked if she could join public art. So now 3 of you.
Well, if we do that, then we have to be notice meetings, right?
No, not for public relations, you don't. Public relations is considered an ad hoc committee. You always are doing a different, no, you do not. You're fine. Yes, look on the sheet that you were given, ad hoc committee.
I'm okay with that.
Count your
Yeah,
blessings.
the 2 or the 3 isn't the determining factor. It's whether they're defined as a standing committee or not.
Okay.
And you're an ad hoc committee.
That idea.
Yeah.
You
And
meet
then, of
when you
course-
have to write an article, and the article's always different. And,
I didn't know I
yeah.
could do
And
that.
she has got incredible ideas. You're going to be so excited. Okay.
It's a lot to live up to. Thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner
That
Harmon,
takes us
sorry.
to,
I was just going to jump in, excuse me,
No,
Madam
go
Chair.
ahead.
The critical number there is 4. Whenever you reach 4, then you've
have
reached a
4.
quorum of the entire commission, so.
Oh, I thought it was the other thing that was.
no, which is why we had a correct, when we said that you or Heather could go to a committee meeting where there are 3 members present, you could actually go if it's posted, but you can't speak. You have to sit in the audience, and you can't be part of it, because if you are, it's a commission meeting of the whole.
And you
'cause
have to
it's
wear a
formed-
sack
It's a
over your
majority.
head.
Well, that's understandable, because now you have a majority of commission members. It's a meeting, you can't do that. But you could go and listen.
Find out what they were doing.
Yeah, and take notes. You just have to sit there and not be part of the meeting. Yeah,
We'll have a meeting. We'll have a meeting.
yeah,
We'll take a meeting.
so. Pamela,
Okay, I was asked at our last meeting to write a paragraph. We can run to Steve and then. I think I forgot to put one first. You two could share for a moment, and I'll give you one. The paragraph after the city staff, where it says, when an artist donates a piece of art, it becomes a gift to the city of Ojai. By doing so, the artist surrenders their right to the work. The work may or may not be exhibited, may be used in reproductions for city promotions, can be divested at any time without prior notice for profit to the city. And it's important for every artist to be aware of the agreement that they are entering when they make a donation to the city of Ojai. The city assumes responsibility for the protection and maintenance of artwork. Basically, this paragraph is just when somebody is going to donate a piece of work to the city, I think it's important that there's clarity about what happens, that they or their heirs would not be informed whether it was going to be exhibited. It could be divested at some time in the future without prior notice. And basically, a gift is a gift. You know, when you donate something to anyone, it is no longer yours and it becomes property of the city, in this case. Sometimes with artwork, that's very foggy because artists have the copyright to their work. But when you make a donation to a public collection that could be sold at some time, you are releasing your rights. So that's what I added.
The only thing that troubles me in this, and it's minor and perhaps irrelevant, but the final sentence, the city assumes responsibility for protection and maintenance. Should there be some cavil there to the best of the city's ability or something of that order?
Or we can leave that out.
It just seems to me that
Raises
is,
some expectations.
I mean, I'm okay with
I would
leaving
leave it out.
We are
that.
insured, but.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm okay with leaving that sentence out. I think there's an assumption that's made that the city will protect its
Sure.
possessions.
Or at City Hall here.
Linda, can you talk into so we all know what you're doing?
Is this your note up here on the?
Actually, that is Christine's.
Oh, okay.
I just added that one paragraph.
Okay.
It was a pre-existing.
So,
Yes, the reason there is question marks there is because we didn't know if this document could be put online, so we're waiting to find out if we can do that.
why we can't, we should.
It should be on the website.
Okay. So that needs to also be fixed. Am I the one that has the master, or do you have this now so that you can take it over and
I
fix it?
can fix it.
Okay, so you can make both those changes.
Again, the correction we just made is or online.
Or at, online or at City Hall is what she has written.
Okay.
Available online or at
City Hall. Okay.
Mhm.
I'll make
So
those
then you would
corrections.
make sure that Steve has copies of it as well.
Okay.
Okay. I think that we can go ahead and move to approve this with those 2 corrections, the elimination of that last sentence, then we don't have to bring this back again. But before we do that, I would just ask everybody to really take a look at it, because this is exactly the sheet of paper that dictates what happens with Brian.
This is the same.
I have a quick question. If we do put it online, and when the form's filled out, who should it be sent to? Now, does Steve have to get a copy? Like, how many
It
people?
says
It
right
says
here.
complete it and return it to Steve
Steve McCleary
McCleary.
at City Hall.
So it's just Steve, it's not anyone in on
No,
the
and
commission?
then Steve knows that it goes to Pamela.
Okay.
Maybe you should put his title in there too. It might look better.
It's there, Deputy City Manager,
Where is it?
the penultimate paragraph.
Ah, Dan.
Oh,
Down
down
very
here, but it
bottom,
might,
yeah.
Be nice to put it up
Okay,
there.
I will
I would put
insert
it up
that.
there.
Yeah.
Okay, does that make sense to you? Am I correct that if you received that, you would let Pamela know? Yeah.
Okay.
So that's how, it's kind of goes through that kind of red tape. Okay, so thank you, Pamela, for
We have to
that.
post this too.
Good
Right.
catch. Does
So-
anyone else see anything on there that as you're thinking in your head about vetting sculpture on public property by Brian, have we covered what we need to cover? Have we
Think so.
asked him to submit? There's an application sheet on the second page. Is it all looking good to you? Because we're kind of flying by the seat of our pants on this.
Well, this is the same, isn't this, it's basically the same document we looked at before.
Yeah, we
But
spent a
we've
lot
made
of
those
time.
changes,
Yes.
so I think it's.
Yes, okay, so we're going to go with it.
Good.
Bless you.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you in a second.
Would somebody like to make a motion to approve this as corrected?
I move we approve the City of Ojai art donation and art loan procedure as amended.
Need a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. We now have a policy for donations and art loans, not to be confused with the public art process used for developers. Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. Next, we're going to receive a report from Michael on the Hope Fraser Award, I believe.
Correct. The awards committee did meet and discussed, first of all, the criteria for the Hope Fraser Award, and I remind you that it's an award that was created in honor of a woman who was herself an accomplished artist, whose art had an impact within the community, and who also added to that impact by many years of service on the Art Commission. As a consequence, it seemed to us appropriate to recommend that Susan Steinmuller-Amend be awarded the Hope Fraser Award. She fulfills all of the criteria that I just listed and then some. So I present that as a report rather than a recommendation for action in case there needed to be discussion, and we could then act upon it at the following meeting. I believe that's the correct procedure.
We already took action.
I thought we did
We
too. I
did?
thought we approved it last time.
No,
We discussed it last,
But we didn't vote on it?
so
Right.
can we vote on it?
Can we vote on it this time then?
Sure.
I thought we had.
Let's do it.
No, we were talking about the other award, I think, and you mentioned that you would like to give it to Susan. I think that's what, and we
Right.
discussed it that way.
Yeah, I don't think it was
An
put forward
action.
as an action.
Well, the minutes
Oh.
reflect something different. The minutes indicate that there was a motion that was
Oh, well.
approved to recommend the city council to award Susan Stinsmuller-Amend the Hope Fraser Award.
I read
Um,
those too.
And I was going to follow up this by saying I'm preparing a staff report to take that to city council on December 9th,
Well,
so.
bully, then all we're doing is reinforcing what we already proposed. I'm sorry, I'm
Okay. So
one
we were,
meeting behind, I guess.
yes. So Michael, I think the update, which you can maybe email to everybody, since we won't be, more than likely, we won't be meeting in December. Don't know that for sure, but let's say we're not, would be where we are in the process of notifying Susan, having the frame and the thing made, having a little reception here, those things.
And I would presume that would be at the January meeting.
It's up to you and up to your committee.
That will give us more time. I think the Christmas holiday
It's crazy,
Hanukkah
yeah.
season is crazy, so
Yeah.
let's shoot for the
Well,
January
and
meeting.
if we look at our calendar, I believe it is in January, so.
Well, this is the 214 calendar I have. Do we have a
Yes,
215?
January, Hope Fraser Award at Arts Commission meeting if selected, so it is scheduled to happen
Then
in
we're on-
January.
we're
So
on
you
track.
just let us know by email what the deal is,
Will
and
do.
the
And-
time, and do we need to all bring a little potluck food kind of thing, or whatever you
We'll
want?
need some nibbles and some wine,
Okay,
yes.
so you'll.
You want a press release, right?
But okay, we're not
Yeah,
going to be in
press release,
violation
yes.
if we talk about that online? Email? No, I think we'll be fine.
That's not policy, that's procedure.
Okay, fantastic. Moving right along. There is no report from Arts Ojai Education Committee, and there will not be one until we have the January meeting. And that committee is now chaired by Bobby Balderman, and we have yet to meet and tell her what that committee is all about.
She's not sworn in
It's called
yet.
throwing a big ball in your direction.
Right. And I'm sitting on the committee along with Pamela, so I think it's going to be really exciting to bring back to you some ideas, because we've got a real brain trust, all 7 of us, but wait and see. Okay, so we'll move on to you again, Michael. Any follow-up on the Artist Mentor Program? We
The only
all are
follow-up
checks.
is that we did get the checks distributed. Many thanks to Steve. And I think importantly, too, what we discovered this year is that it needs to be moved up in the calendar. So we are definitely going to initiate the whole mentor program earlier in the year by soliciting applications from artists in January, February, and then soliciting applications from students so that it's all completed before the spring break, because after the spring break, the students are going nuts with college applications and things
Yeah.
of that sort.
Totally agree.
And other than that, I have nothing to report, except that it was, I think, again, a very successful program. I think the work that the students did
Yes,
was
kudos.
remarkable. The fact that the artists really give so much to those kids is just extraordinary. I think that maybe after we do it a third year, if we could really think sort of long-term in terms of trying to get some sort of article in some major news sources, or, get the LA Times to but try and do something to make the larger public aware of the fact that this is a really valuable program and could be replicated all over the country. So that's my report.
I have to say, too, I was really touched. I mean, I always am when they get up there and talk about it, but this time especially, everybody, the kids teared up, the
Oh, I
mentors
know. When it
teared
was
up.
great,
It was
wasn't it?
really, yeah, it really meant a lot to them. I
Yeah.
think it's great.
Who knows what the long-term effect was, but I
Yeah.
think in the short term, it was a profound experience for all of them.
Mhm.
Thanks, I do.
So I'm assuming we'll be continuing that
Oh, I
in
hope
years
so.
to come.
Yes. Thank you, Michael. Heather, City Gallery.
So the next show we had planned is to show some of the previously unexhibited works from the city collection. So we're just pulling those together. And one thing I talked to Steve about, and this is, I guess, for acquisitions and city gallery, is trying to find a better storage space. I think where we are putting overflow from the works that people drop off for the city shows and where we're storing our acquisitions is just totally inadequate right now. It makes me uncomfortable.
How about my house?
That works really well, but
Yeah.
does it have to be under a weight limit?
No, not that one.
Good one.
I
Heather,
was
I have
thinking
a
more like
question.
along the lines of the Lemoore, the Childress.
Yeah, that space that we're using which is over here.
Mm-hmm.
If racks or something were built, would you be more comfortable with it?
Yes.
Okay, because that could be done fairly reasonably. I would
Yeah, and
think.
if we could do just something that, and we like,
So
you
it's
know,
not leaning against.
without going into details, yeah, it's just
Yeah.
it's not spacious enough. But I think if we're allowed to put racks in there, that would be terrific.
We'll have to talk. Talk about it.
And I don't know if that's ever used for something else.
I don't know either. We'll have to talk about it.
It really does not have any regular use at this point, so, and in fact, it's become the de facto art storage room and kind of pushed out any other uses. It was used at one point, I guess, my understanding, many years ago, when some of the council members would try to keep office hours, and it was a place where they could go in and do some work, so we haven't had that request for several years, so.
Do you think we could take it over?
We can certainly talk about it.
Okay.
I
That would
think,
be-
and I think it's worth having the discussion,
That would
certainly.
be great. I think that would be a good thing.
So I have a question for you, Heather, or maybe it's a suggestion. But I did notice, not this week, because I didn't check it this week yet, but aren't I on?
You're on.
Okay. That the paper says that the exhibit by Dana Tartaglia is up till November 18th. And I think we should get the blurb, you know, where it says ongoing events. It's in that section. Check it and
Oh.
see if I'm right. We should list this.
Yeah.
So that people would know to
Yes.
come and see this. So can you follow up on that and check and see if I'm right, or just call over there and talk to Misty?
Linda,
Or somebody over
Talk to
there.
Linda Griffin about that.
Oh,
that
Is
section.
Linda back?
Okay,
She's
I
been
guess, I just
Oh.
assume when we sent
Because
the
she
press
was always
release
the
that
best
they-
contact, Linda, yeah.
She's back.
Okay.
Linda's the one that takes care
Oh,
of that.
fantastic
section.
to
Linda
know.
Griffin.
All right, good.
Linda,
It's Linda at Ojai Valley News,
thank you.
Oh, that's so good to know.
because we used to get each other's
Yeah,
emails.
the reason that it was going into November, we had to change our schedule
remember.
based on when the mentoring program was, so we had to shift our schedule, and that fell out of the.
Yeah. I know.
I want to bring something up that it may be premature, but I think it's worth our knowing about, and that is that, as Roger may well know, Tony Thatcher and others working with Michelle Pracy have begun to explore the idea of creating a city collection and perhaps a space for that city collection. I don't know whether they're thinking long-term in terms of an addition to the museum or what. I was not able to go to the first meeting of a discussion group about this. But it seems to me that there's an opportunity here perhaps for us to connect with the museum, given the fact that we already have a substantial collection of city art, and that working together with the museum might be to everyone's benefit. Roger, do you know anything that can expand on that?
Yes, I was going to reserve it for commissioner comments.
Okay.
Basically, the Board of Trustees of the museum decided they wanted to create an art acquisition fund and basically deal with that. So I had suggested to Tony that maybe we could get a liaison, because we both have similar problems. You know, we need more money to buy art. We also have storage problems, which we have storage problems here, and the museum has storage problems also that needs to be solved to have a larger collection. So I think by working together, like for instance, the museum is basically a city building.
Right.
We pay $1 a year to rent it, so it would be kind of a natural for that. The museum also has conditioning to keep things a little bit better than we would be able to do it here. So I think it obviously needs to be developed, and you know, like how we coordinate the efforts to raise monies for this, and I don't think we've ever done a combined city and museum thing, but it could be a very powerful thing,
Yeah.
because we also have resources like Michelle Pracy, who has quite a bit of experience in
Right.
art acquisition and has been in the field for years. So I think there's a lot of advantages, and we need to have these discussions and see if we can work something.
Do you think we could invite, at the appropriate time, Michelle or Tony and/or both of them to come to one of our meetings and talk to us?
Sure, I think it should probably have some meetings before to kind of work out the
Okay.
details, because you know it's kind of like having Russia and the United States, you know, worrying about
Oh, I
things
hope
to
it ain't
get.
Russia and the
Well, you
United
have a
States.
private group and a city group, and you know that was my analogy of the differences there. So I think we need to have some informal discussions first, and to look.
So
at
would that be the acquisitions committee that would then talk to?
Yeah, I think the acquisitions committee.
Yeah,
Um,
that'd be great.
Yeah, I know the museum
I'll work
has
for
been
you,
looking
Pamela.
to get additional space, which could be used as storage, which could end up being something that could be used for the city collection too. Also, the city has been wanting to get their collection out into other venues, like we've talked about, and I think are working out something
Right.
with the library.
Right.
The various art shows that we have at the museum would be a perfect venue for showing a lot of the city art. We have like a portrait show coming up as our next thing in January. And if there were some portraits in the city collection, that would be a natural to bring it in.
As long as you brought that up, who was handling I know Barbara was, don't even have to ask that. Barbara was handling the conversations with the library. But was that under acquisitions also?
Under acquisitions.
Okay, so Linda, you have the background on that, and you can help Pamela kind of bring her up to date on that.
Talk to Barbara.
Okay.
We'll bring Barbara
So-
in on it.
Okay.
I just think
You'll
this-
notice that no one else has tasks here except you tonight, Pamela.
It's okay, I'm game.
I love this idea. In fact, I think at one of the receptions, Michelle and I were talking about the idea of getting, eventually getting a wing, which was, for a dedicated art space there. If that could actually happen, it would be awesome. So I think it's great. Yeah, they've got the room.
Okay, well, this is exciting. We have so many exciting things that are coming up. Anything else at City Gallery? Okay, we'll look forward to see what you decide and where you decide to hang some of the permanent work for display. And then maybe you'll also, and this could be coordinated with the museum as well, perhaps, but I think it'd be nice to invite the public to see what they own.
Oh, yeah, no,
If there's gonna be reception.
that would be a great idea. Of course, I mean, I
Let's have a hoopla.
Yeah, but we're gonna put the roof on.
Okay, good.
No, I think that would be really nice, and I mean, the whole point of it is so the public can see what we're doing.
Right.
And drink wine while we're doing it.
And eat.
Oh, yes. Moving right along, Mr. McCleary is going to send around the table the latest and correct budget.
Well, actually, I was going to refer to the one that's in the packet.
Oh, okay, it's in the packet. Beg your pardon.
And I do want to make one change to that. I need to zero out and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I need to zero out the arts Ojai education for this year and move that 15 to the arts grants.
Correct.
So that would bring that up to 15 too. And,
Okay, do you think we could get a corrected copy of this? Where the numbers are actually correct on there?
sure,
Can we do that for our next meeting?
yeah, sure,
Okay.
I'll always include it in the meeting.
Okay, so that came off of, where did it come off of? Would you go down one at a time and give us the right figures? I'm having a hard time with this.
Sure, the only change is to the arts grants at the top. So the budgeted amount is 15,200.
And arts, isn't arts
Arts education is zeroed out.
Arts Ojai education also changed to zero?
Correct.
Okay,
Those are the only changes.
all right. And all the rest is the same?
That's
Okay,
correct.
good.
And I will start including on this, just for reference and also as a reminder, the public art fund balance.
Oh,
So I
please.
actually have pulled that into my desktop version, and so that'll be included in the future
Oh,
ones.
good.
And just so that you have that, that current balance is 17,438 and change. So just over 17,400. Sure. 17438.69. Thank you. To be precise.
Oh, thank you, Steve, for that.
The other thing that I wanted to bring up, and this is somewhat old business, but it was brought up by Commissioner Hirsch. She wanted us to double check when we had acquired a Childress painting back in 2011. There was some question about the fund that it had come out of, and I did verify that did come out of the acquisitions fund. It did come out of the general fund. It did not come out of the public art fund. So that was the concern there.
Okay,
So, but I definitely verified that, and I'm completely 100% confident
Okay,
that
great.
that came out of the correct fund.
Thank you, Steve.
So you can check that off. And actually, I'll have to update this for the next time around also to show the funds that were spent under the artist-student mentor. So I'll have to add that in there as well.
Thank you. Okay, let me go back to the,
It's the joint meeting.
joint meeting?
The next thing we want to talk about is an agenda for our joint meeting with City Council. So why don't we start with Michael? We'll go around. Any items that you think that we should be discussing with City Council in January?
Well, I would hope that if nothing else, we give a report on our grant program and on the mentor program, because both of those are public and I think will be seen by the city council as
Yes.
contributions we're making to the community.
Okay, so I'm going to assume that you will do the grant program and that Roger will do the grants and you will do the award.
Yep.
I'm the mentor.
Mentor program.
Okay, anything else? Okay. Pamela, any ideas, or are you going to wait until you?
I think I'll wait that meeting out.
Okay. You might think of a lot after you get,
I know.
yeah. Linda?
I really don't have anything to add, unless we wanted to bring up, love the idea of thinking ahead about doing something with the museum. I think that's a great idea. If we want to start talking about that at this meeting, it might be a good time. I don't know if it's
well,
premature or not.
Let's see if we can get that going enough in time for that to be.
A report.
Yeah.
So Steve, we don't need to have a agenda, boom, 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 right? This is more for us to know, to be prepared, that I'm thinking that we're going to give them ahead of time something that,
I mean, you don't have to. It'd be nice if we know
If we
some
know.
specific things, but I don't think you're limited to that. I mean, it's really a joint
It's a round table.
discussion type
Yeah.
thing. So,
Okay.
I mean, there's no actions being taken or being
Yeah.
considered at the meeting. So, I think anything that falls under the purview of the Arts Commission is probably fair game at the meeting to talk about or share.
Linda, what about talking about, if you're ready, the app that we've talked about having? Can you want to bring that up? And because isn't the city very involved in that?
I think they're working with the new book developer, right?
Heather?
Well, that's just a question for Linda.
What?
Oh, the app, that was something that's kind of going hand in hand with the development of the new website, correct? Or not hand in hand, but.
Well, we don't have any concrete plans to develop any apps at this point. I think it might be a good topic to bring up, to maybe get people thinking about it and talking about it,
Can bring up
and
a-
see if you get
yeah.
some support.
Joint meeting? Okay.
I don't think it's a bad idea to get it out there, especially if you're trying to build some support for it.
I think where we left it the last time when we met with them, we forwarded you remember those links? And they thought we could maybe go through those free apps, is what they were thinking. And that was just with James and, lady that took Carlin's place, I should know her name.
Oh, Rhonda.
Rhonda, she's great. So I had an informal meeting with James and Rhonda about it, and they had already brought forward their ideas on the website, and I don't know how far you've moved along on that, but I liked what he had to show me. And then he said that they didn't really, I guess the funds weren't really there at that point for the app. So I talked to him about different ways to do it, and he researched several, and he sent us 3 different links to look at for possibilities, but they're independent apps, so we would be independent at the city.
I mean, one way to look at this is like a lot of things that the commission might want to accomplish is, you can allocate some funds under your budget and get some proposals and
Right.
go forward and get it done that way.
Right.
Which, the commission may find of value to do.
Is there already an existing Ojai Arts app
No.
out
No.
there in the
No.
apposphere?
Not that I'm aware of.
There's not even an existing template for a city to have an app.
Okay.
I thought there might be. There is not. I talked to the
Okay.
city, governing cities, what's that official, I have it in my notes, but the name of the organization for cities and,
League of California Cities?
yes.
Oh,
that's it.
okay.
I talked to them, and she actually said, oh, that's a good idea, but at this point, we have nothing, that we've not talked about that. So I would think the League of Cities would have more funds to designate for, that. I think it would be an important app for every city in the United States that wanted to develop their tourism. I can't imagine. But they hadn't moved on it, so we're kind of ahead of the stream on that one, I think.
Good.
I mean, there are cities out there that do have apps, but they were paid for by those cities, so we have to pay for it.
Yep.
So I would just encourage you to, anything you want to tell them about what's on our website now that maybe wasn't on it before, you know, things that you're working on the website.
can do that.
You can give a little report on that. This is really, that's what we've done in the past, is each of the chairs has given a little report on you know, this helps, especially new, because we'll have some new, correct, Steve? He's gone, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. There's going to be three new council members.
Two new ones, one's.
Oh, that's right, Paul's returning.
Yeah.
Okay. Sitting at the meeting, it'll be wonderful for them to hear what it is we do, because not too long after that, we go forward with a budget. So it's good for them to hear all these things we do. So each chair to think about what they might want to report on. Anything, Roger, besides grants that you would want to talk about?
No, I think I'm good now.
And Heather, for City Gallery, you might want to talk about the display of the permanent collection, if that's happened or is in the process. You could do that.
And would the idea for a
Storage.
storage room, would that?
Uh-huh, absolutely, yeah, great. Okay. So each chair then can make a little report. I will talk about that we are finished with our 5-year goals and that they're available for review online, because hopefully you guys will have them up by then, because I would think you can get them up
You could have reported it.
within a couple months.
She put them up, she could have reported on that. Oh,
Okay, you guys, no fighting at the table here. We give it to Pamela to do, we gave her everything else to do tonight. That's right. So the 5-year goals, and I'll probably have copies to pass that out. I'm also going to bring up my ongoing concern about maintenance to the B installation at the Bryan Street. That still it is just deteriorating more and more and more and more. And we need some clarity and we need some muscle from the city to take care of, I don't know, sending letter after letter or whatever we do to private developers when they are not taken care of and public art is being destroyed. Unfortunately, they're grandfathered into the old ordinance, and so we don't have some muscle. We have a little more muscle in the new ordinance for things like that.
have they been, you said a letter already has went out and somebody's already talked to them about the maintenance?
I'm really not prepared to answer this. I don't have those
Okay.
details, and I don't handle the code enforcement directly, and this
Yeah.
came up over 2 years ago, so I would want to
And
get
last year as
myself
well.
refamiliarized.
It's come up 2 years in a
so-
row and still nothing.
But I
done.
know letters were sent.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll also, I'm sorry, Linda Moore.
No, I just
Okay.
was wondering.
I'll also talk about the new developers packet, because I think by then it'll be ready to go. And anything else with public art that's coming up. So I think if we each do that, give a little summary and report on what each of our committees is working on. Bobby, is the meeting before or after our Arts Commission meeting?
It's scheduled for January 27th. That's Tuesday from 6 to 7 p.m., preceding the regular council meeting.
January 27th,
Correct.
6 p.m.
6 to 7 p.m.
So that will happen after Bobby is sworn in.
That's not a lot.
And, you may or may not be ready to give a report on arts education Ojai, but we can meet before then and talk, and there might be a little something to say. Okay, we won't worry about it too much. Okay. Anything else on the joint meeting? I think it'll go really well. It's a wonderful opportunity to let city council know what it is we do. It's like a great reminder, this is what this commission is all about. And also the public, because it's televised, to know what it is we do. Upcoming meeting schedule. Steve, you want to do that?
So this is the point in the meeting when we decide how much we want to punish ourselves in December by holding a meeting on the third Thursday of the month, or if we would like to try to go dark in December or schedule a special meeting. So it's up to the commission. I am available on the 18th. If you do want to schedule something, I will still be here, so.
I would like to see us not have a meeting in December and give us more time to meet with our committees. Yes. Personally. So we're ready for the January meeting.
Anyone else? Comments?
I'll second that.
Linda, you want to put that in the form of a motion?
I move that we stay dark, I don't know how to say it, but stay dark for the December meeting and instead spend the time in our committees and then move forward into the new year.
Could I ask you to take the part about the committees out so that it's not like a part of the motion is you got to meet with a
Oh.
committee? Because we might, not all of them might want to meet. And just make
Okay.
it going
Give
dark.
extra, I would like to move that we do not have a December meeting.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Yes. Okay. Happy about that, obviously. Commissioner comments. Let's start with Heather tonight. Go the other way. Nothing? Roger?
I'm good.
You're good? You talked about the museum. Linda?
I think we've already talked a lot about
Okay.
other things, so.
Fine.
You fine?
I'm fine.
Okay, it's just going to be me. I'm going to pass out to everybody one of the, well, let me start this way. We are still working on putting together an orientation booklet, and I sent everybody an email on this, and apparently not everybody got it, but we're going to put in the art commissioner's contact list. I can't do that. That has to come from city, so I'm waiting on that. There's a commission calendar, and I'm just going to pass you a copy around. But once you get this calendar, which has been updated, Michael did get back to me and gave me the updates.
Yay.
It has been updated. Here, put that one on top, sorry. We don't want to have to run this off again, so I'm going to ask every one of you, if there are any changes to this, I need them tomorrow. I want you to do it right away, because we've asked city to make these copies, and if there are going to be changes to what they're copying, I can't go walk in there and say, throw them all away, we had a change that came in. you've been emailed all of this, and no one has responded, so I'm giving you a hard copy and saying, please, look at it now, changes I need right away.
I can see where you don't have the press release for the
Then
grant.
put it
for-
on there and send it back to me and put your name so I know the
Okay, 'cause
change came from you, Linda.
Hope Fraser, you said, was going to be,
Pardon me?
Hope Fraser, oh, that's going to be in January, though, you said.
Yes, it is.
Sorry.
I moved everything up the way you put in your email.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay. In addition to the commission calendar, the commission committee assignment list is going to also go in there. So I'm going to pass that out.
Is there a third page to this?
2 pages to that one, Roger.
Okay,
2 pages. It should have every month on it, does it not?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it just says 1 of 3 and 2 of 3.
Oh, does it say 1 or 3 on there? How'd that happen?
It's because this was attached to it.
Oh. All right, well, that's a good correction. I'll get that out of there. If it hasn't been run off yet, we won't worry about it. We'll white it out. And last is, for you to see tonight, is the committee tasks and calendar. Now, Linda and Heather did a wonderful thing and decided we should create this document and send around a template. And this is one of the reasons why when I came up with the idea of creating an orientation book for our new members, I thought, you know what? We all need this book. Once it's created, we're going to ask you, Steve and I are going to ask you respectfully to bring this book to every meeting so that when we need to refer to something, all these pages are going to be right in front of you in this book, 3-hole punched in a little binder for you to bring with a meeting. Because we're running off gobs and gobs and gobs of these sheets. And we shouldn't need to. They've all been passed out numerous times. So we're going to try to clean up our act. So this one coming around came out to you in email form about a month ago. I received no replies on it. And what I asked was, would you please look at this as, just look at the one you're the chair of. And if anything needs to be added to that, I need it right away. Can't wait anymore. If it's fine the way it is, it will go in the handbook in the way it is. So, in addition to that, we're going to be putting in the current budget, which will be corrected. Copies of agenda and minutes will go in for our new members only, so that when you're a new member, you can look and see what we've done over the past 3 months. We're going to put a copy of the Public Arts Muni Code, both the old one and the new one, so if something comes up, we'll have it right at our fingertips. We're going to put in a copy of the Muni Code, which tells all about what the Arts Commission is, what its duties are, about attendance and about terms. I know none of us ever got this book when we joined the Arts Commission. This is a whole brand-new thing that I'm cooking up in my head for you guys. We'll have a copy of the new public art guidelines, the document that we just finished, and we'll have a copy of the new donation policy that Pamela worked on. We're going to have a very short, basic overview of the Brown Act, and Rhonda will be redoing the term of office flow chart. That will go in there, as well as a copy of the Art Commission goals. So that's what's going to be in the handbook. It's going to be a nice little book that will have all the resources that we need when we have any kind of discussion at these meetings, and will really help to orient new members. So, that's about that.
I think a round of thanks to you for doing all of
You're
this.
quite welcome. I
No,
think it'll make my job
It's huge
easier.
because it's going to make life easier, I think, for all of us.
Yes, and I think really it'll make life easier for Steve and staff over here, because we won't be saying, oh, I don't have one of those. And there'll be 8 copies, one for everybody and one for Steve, so we'll have it.
And one on file at
Yeah.
City Hall. 9
That'll be
copies.
That'll be Steve's copy on file at City Hall. And then in January, when I update all these forms, I'm gonna use plastic sleeves, and we'll just, right on top, new color. So you'll know this is the new one with the date on it, and it'll always, and if you wanna see what we had before, you can look behind that sleeve. Okay.
I have a question for Michael, because we're going to be giving you corrections. On January, so should I put under press releases, should I put Hope Fraser press release also?
Yes, because that's when we'll be awarding it.
That's not
Yeah,
on there.
Definitely.
So that has to be added.
Yep.
Okay, just be sure you get those sheets to me, and I'll add them when I go home tonight, and I'll get them right over here. And hopefully, she didn't copy that document yet. Okay, but after tomorrow, no more changes. That's it.
This
Get
year.
these put together. Anybody wants to come and help me collate these, let me know. The last thing has to do with a statement that your chair got up and made at the last city council meeting that has to do with the turning off of the Matilah Poppy Fountain. And since then, I've also discovered that the Clough Vista Fountain has been turned off. I've done a little research and a little work on this. I've had a talk with one city council member who suggests that this go in front of city council with a recommendation, if you all agree, that the fountains be turned back on. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what I've discovered and what I've found, and I have a sheet of paper to pass out on this as well. You kind of follow along. Were there enough to go around over there, Roger?
Yeah,
Well,
there's just something else.
Yeah, there's something else with some notes on it.
Oh, it's probably something I wrote notes on. Oh, yes. Okay. So Governor Brown's decree, I did a little Google search on this to see exactly what the decree was, and you'll see it printed there, 3A, B, C, D. But I also did a little searching to see how Los Angeles and other environs were responding to this decree to turn off fountains and not to fill bird baths and so on. When I spoke at City Council, I did not talk about the effect that it's having on the public art. I only talked about the effect that it's having on wildlife and birds and insects and how we're so eager to turn the water off for them, but so that we can save it for ourselves. So I did not speak on behalf of the Arts Commission at the City Council meeting. I spoke as an environmentalist and an animal lover. But I will be going back on Tuesday with a recommendation from all of you. If you don't have a recommendation, I'll speak as a private citizen on this. But I'm hoping that you'll support this and let me speak for the Arts Commission on it. So the fountains that don't use recycled water, and the order was called voluntary in all the press releases that I read several of the releases that came out in the papers, and it was said it was voluntary. I found out that some fountains, such as the Getty Fountain, has been turned off. However, a very large, humongous fountain in the Mulholland area, Mulholland said, no, we're going to continue to run this fountain. It's part of the ambiance of the city and what draws people here, and they consider it to be environmentally important to leave that fountain on. So they left their fountain on. Our response to this decree was to leave on the Libby Park fountain, but to turn off the Matilahapapi fountain, the Clough Vista Park fountain. Now, I went up to Clough Vista Park to check on it. I'm going to share with you that I have a special place here for that particular fountain because I purchased that stone and donated it to the city. And the tile work around that area is now etched with minerals because there's no water in the pond. As well, there's debris in the base of the pond. It's really an eyesore. I believe, since it is a piece of our public art, it was purchased as a piece of public art for the city, that this is an alteration to the intent of a fountain. And our new Muni Code for public art says that you cannot do that with public art without coming through the Art Commission first. And in talking to a city council member that I talked to, we cannot wrap our mind around who gave the order to turn these two fountains off. It did not go before city council. It certainly did not come before the Arts Commission. And so we have a question as to who at City Hall made the decision to turn off those two fountains. So the concerns are the unintentional noncompliance with the intent of the Muni Code regarding alterations to public art without due process from the Arts Commission, and I referenced that below on this sheet. Another concern is turning off the water feature, which negatively alters the public art experience of these two fountains. And the Clough Vista fountain tile, as I said, is now going to need some cleaning, some careful cleaning due to mineral deposits. So I don't feel it would be right of me to go and speak about this unless all of you agree that you also want to see these fountains turned back on as pieces of public art here in the city. Can I start at one end and work around?
Sure.
Is that okay, Linda?
Fine.
Start with you, Heather. How do you feel about this? Because this is obviously coming from me.
Well, first, talking about the mineral deposits, those are going to be there without the water regardless. That's something.
You just don't see them?
You just don't see them. So maybe this is the chance to clean them.
There you go.
You know, I understand your reasoning. I think part of this is a public relations issue. We don't want to be seen as putting the art above environmental causes in a kind of this record drought. That being said, I mean, but I do understand it is. I guess the one thing I would like to know is really how much water is wasted.
That's what I was going to respond to, because I actually did look that up. And if it's recycled water, the evaporation is nil, according to what I read online with the environmental.
However, Public Works does have to add water to
Oh, yeah.
all of the fountains that run, including the ones that are recycled.
I'm
So
sure.
it's not nil to the point that it doesn't require them to add water. So there
Okay.
is a loss. I don't know what that is.
That's what I was going to say. I'd want to know how much they're saving if they're recycled water than if it's not saving that much. I would say, for myself, I would rather see them on, because it's only a few.
Well, I think Commissioner
But-
Stovall put it correctly. I think part of it is a public relations perception
Right.
issue.
Right,
And whether you agree with that or not, but that's part of the thinking behind that.
yeah. Uh-huh.
On the other hand, I just want to comment that the fountain that shoots water into the air was left on, and that's Libby Park Fountain. So I've just kind of, it seems arbitrary that those two were turned off. Both of those are art pieces. That poppy, that's a piece, that was a commissioned sculpture. It just bothers me that it was done without any discussion from anybody.
Going to continue around?
Roger.
I'm kind of torn on this too, because there is the public relations, like I just walked by the Oaks and noticed they've turned off their fountain in front, and they have a sign out saying that they did it to encourage people not to use water statements in that areas. It seems as though, since it is recycled water, that technically we could be running it and still be within Governor Brown's guidelines. So, that would seem possible. I think physically, the Clough Park probably has more surface area to lose by evaporation than the Poppy is a relatively small area on that. And also the mineral deposits basically are happening there all the time. And I think these are basically art projects. Like, for instance, at the museum, we have the Condor, and that needs to be refurbished every 2 years. And it basically gets waxed and cleaned and that sort of thing. And so these other water statements, like the Poppy particularly, because there's a lot of very thin water surface there, and you can get deposit builds up, because our water is just incredibly hard here, in the whole valley. So that really needs to be on a schedule to be maintained with acid baths occasionally to get rid of that. So
And waxing.
yeah.
Thank you, Roger. And Linda, did you want to add anything?
Just the fact that I would think Public Works probably looked at how much water it was using, I would think. I would be interested, before I would say anything about it, I would find out the facts of how much water it was wasting, because if it is wasting a lot of water, I do think it's a good idea to turn it off.
Okay.
I think it's more important, I think art is a contemporary action, and because of the drought, I think it does override the art piece. There is going to be evaporation on any fountain, whether it's recycled or fresh water. There's going to be absorption into the air and would have to be filled on a regular basis. I hate to see the water off, but I think that if people come to Ojai, when we're asking and demanding everyone to be mindful of their water usage, it seems wasteful to see the exhibition of water running. So I think it's okay. I get the whole point of the commission should have been asked, the city, it should have gone through the city, but I think it was probably the right choice to make.
I would agree with that. There's definitely an evaporation factor. The question for me is why the one in Libby Park is still on. So I think the fundamental issue is one that the city needs to address. A, who made the decision? And if they made that decision, why did they not turn off that very obvious fountain that is visited by members of the community and any visitors to the community? The fact of the matter is that the drought is enormously serious. It's ongoing. And I think it's more than public relations in this case. I think it's a case of the city actually acting on what they're calling upon everyone in the city to do, and that is to save water. So I would support the city action and would urge that they also turn off the Libby Park fountain.
I can provide an answer as to what the thinking was on that.
Okay.
Because it is so obvious, and because it's so prominent, and because of its location. That was the thinking. Because it is
That's
the,
why you turn it off, for exactly those reasons.
I think they
Beautiful as it may be.
They were probably trying to make both segments happy, I would imagine.
right.
That's what
Right.
the city has to do all the time.
So it's
is
kind of
go
a
in
happy,
between.
it's a bit of a splitting of the baby there.
Yeah.
That undercuts everything that the city and the state are attempting to do to deal with a major environmental crisis. And if that was the thinking, I would really like to discuss that with whoever thought that and made a decision on that basis, because I think it's fundamentally wrongheaded.
So I guess we didn't reach
So I-
consensus.
Well,
I don't think we're-
no, you're not, and that's okay, and that's why I brought it before you, because I didn't feel it was right for me to go and speak on it unless you all agreed with me. Obviously, I don't agree with what you're saying. I think that it's more important to have, and I'm not going to speak here about the art, because I have a hidden agenda. It's not so hidden, I got up and talked about it publicly. But, we're taking the water away from Pachamama, from Mother Earth. We're taking water away from animal life. We're taking water away from bees. I fill my fountains. I fill my bird bath on my property, and you should see the animals that come. I mean, I have an entourage that come from all over, from the foothills now, because they know they're going to get water at my house. So we're very eager to make sure that we can have water for ourselves. But what about the wildlife? So I do have kind of a hidden agenda on this, in addition to wanting to see the artwork in its full form. I also would like to see that water is available to insects and to wildlife.
Well, I guess my question is, like, for example, with the poppy, then how many animals are really there drinking out of it?
Oh, they come. Especially insects, butterflies, bees. Take it away from those who we can afford to least take it away from in time of drought. I say, let's do what the young man has done who's on his 30-some days of no showers. Let's deprive ourselves of water.
But presumably, that's
But
exactly
let's
what you're
water
doing.
the bushes.
Presumably, that's exactly what you're doing as an individual, when you make that individual choice to cut down your private water usage so that you can fill your fountains.
Right.
My wife and I have a bird bath in our backyard that is regularly used. We've made the same sorts of decisions. We don't fill it quite as full as we used to, but we keep water in it. And we take short showers and have cut our water usage about 23%. That's an individual choice.
Right.
And shorter showers. I didn't say we eliminated showers. So I think that's precisely the sort of individual initiative that is required. But I think for the city to ask all of us to make those decisions, they have to be making the same obvious decisions.
Consistently,
Consistency is the
yes.
issue.
So at this point, I will only ask that we could please find out what the process was, because Michael, you brought that back up again, and why Libby Park is still, we just like a little more information, and I really would like to find out how much water was being added that is no longer being added. I'd like to get that.
Why don't you go?
I mean, there must be some way they can track, they know how often they were filling it, right?
I suppose.
You could
we
talk
find
to
that
Public Works.
How do we go about
I'll
finding
put
that
it right
out?
at the top of my list.
Christine, you could go over to Public Works.
Turn my mic off when I laugh like that.
Public Works
Steve, I
is
tell
very
you what,
nice.
I'll find
You can
out.
ask them.
Don't put it on your list. I'll find it out.
They're very nice in Public Works. Nice staff.
They are. Okay, I will not get up at City Hall and make a report on behalf of the Arts Commission. Boo-hoo. I think that's it. No. Staff liaison report.
I have nothing.
Oh. And Betsy.
Oh, that's not true. I do.
Okay,
Sorry.
Okay, before you do, can I just say, for the record, that Betsy did call and say that she wasn't able to attend tonight and gave her apologies for that. Betsy Clapp,
Councilmember Clapp.
Councilmember Clapp.
What?
Councilmember Clapp, she was just stating could not be here tonight, and she did call ahead of time to extend her apologies to not be able to attend, so.
Thank you, Steve.
I just wanted to remind everybody, and hopefully you got the notice about the Commissioners' Appreciation Dinner coming up on December 12th, starting at 6 o'clock with dinner at 7. If you could please RSVP to Amber by December 1st, and we hope to see all of you there.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is it true that our former commissioners were invited?
Yes, former commissioners have been invited.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So-
Anybody who served in 2014 on a commission or council is being
So
invited.
if you run into our former commissioners, please encourage them to come, because it'd be great to see them, wouldn't it?
I got an invitation, I'm sure, right?
Yeah. For those of you that have not been invited or gone to one of these before, it's really a lot of fun. And you get introduced, and all the commissioners from all the commissions are there. So come. And you can bring a guest, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, anything else? Then let the meeting be adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, we should have a meeting.
Okay.
My damn phone's back
Let's get
on.
Heather.
Stan, I went up there, I just
Set
wanted
up a
to
meeting
cry when I
for
saw
the
that.
three of us.
Can we do it after Thanksgiving?
Sure, that's what I mean. Do you want to look at
You know what?
your calendar
That's
for
not
now?
helping.
For
Let them stop fracking.
Thanksgiving, I'll be.
No, it isn't a whole nother issue. Let's save water by, with all the nonsense the way.
animals were drinking for all these people.
No, I just meant if there was a better time.
That's right. Let's stop that nonsense.
It's like feeding the bears.
Okay.
That works for me.
All right.
Let's begin.
That way.
I'm available the first week of December.
I am too. So,
So I'm
is there a
available.
better day for you?
December sometime.
Let's see. Well, what's your schedule like? I could do it Wednesday the 3rd, December 3rd.
So what I would suggest is we do it just like we were doing.